Hey guys, this is Tombox, and welcome to a ruling video. Haven't done one of these in a while, but here we are. We're dedicating this video to one little knight, SP Little Knight. And you know what? I'm going to call it now. If you don't get most of these questions right about SP Little Knight, you're going to have an awful time at your next event, and probably just going to scrub out. And here's how it's going to play out. I usually see it all the time. It starts off with someone thinking that, oh, they're making such a clever play, but then the opponent challenges it. You call a judge hoping that the judge will back you up. But then the judge does not back you up and says that no, that is not how it's supposed to play out, so it's ruled against you and you're stuck with a misplay. You decide to call for an appeal. The appeal, assistant head judge or whoever the head judge is comes over and says, no, we're going to uphold the ruling that the judge gave you, and now you're stuck with that misplay. Scrub out, feel salty, and all because you didn't do your homework, and maybe you spent $400 to $500 going to the YCS only to scrub out. Doesn't feel very good. Wow, that really took a dark turn. But you don't have to feel like that, because by the time you finish this video, you'll at least know how most of these things are ruled. And at the end of the day, if you have any doubts, ask the head judge before the event starts. Always works out better that way. And you know what? Let's get started with this quiz. So if you guys want to help me out, hit that thumbs up and hit subscribe, ding that notification bell. So let's all read SP Little Knight for fairness. You can't say, oh, I didn't read the card as an excuse this way. So if SP Little Knight is a dark attribute monster with a left-right arrow, warrior link effect monster using 2 effect monster, and it's also a link to a 1600 attack. Card text wise, if this card is link summoned using a fusion, synchro, exceeds, or link monster as material, you can target one card on the field or in either graveyard, banish it. Also, your monsters cannot attack directly this turn, but that part is a effect. It's an applied effect once it resolves. When your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can target 2 face-up monsters on the field, including a monster you control, banish both until the end phase. You can only use each effect of SP Little Knight once per turn. Alright, that's as clear as it gets. Number 1, we're starting simple. We have SP versus Floowandereeze level 1 monsters. So let's simplify this entire game. Say there's a Floowandereeze and Rabina on the opposing side of the field. I control an SP Little Knight, and at some point during this turn, I managed to activate in the quick effect of Little Knight, banishing the SP and the Rabina on the opposing side of the field. So to keep it all simple, we're going to proceed to end phase, and at the end phase, this is where things get a little bit more dicey, a little bit more questionable. I bring back my SP Little Knight. My opponent says, hey, you can't bring back SP Little Knight. I'm like, why can't I? I'm like, well, we banished both of them. No, my Rabina wasn't banished by your effect. And so you call a judge over, they come over. Well, this is supposed to be where you come in. What is actually the correct resolution to this entire scenario? There's really only one, and we're not going to wait that long. So you can pause the video here, or you can hear the answer right now. So the answer is SP Little Knight will come back onto the field. However, the Floowandereeze and Rabina will not come back onto the field because Floowandereeze and Rabina wasn't actually banished by SP Little Knight's effect. So to be a bit more clear, Floowandereeze and Rabina, whenever it leaves the field, it will basically apply its own effect first, which means whenever it leaves it will banish itself. You know how when you activate an evenly match against a Floowandereeze and Rabina and any of those level 1s, they are always banished face up because they are being removed from the field not by the effect of the opposing card, but rather if it has to leave the field, its own effect will apply and it will banish itself. So in that case, it was not banished by SP Little Knight. However, since SP Little Knight did manage to resolve the effect where it did remove stuff off the field, because that's only a temporary banishment, it's still going to apply as much as possible, so it's still going to return the other monster that was banished. So in other words, the SP Little Knight will come back, whereas the Floowandereeze and Rabina, well, they can stay banished. Honestly, not that big of a deal for the Floowandereeze player, considering that still lets them set up their own little chain blocks whenever they normal summon a new monster. Just saying that it's not that bad. So this is a very minor argument, but it gives you a little bit of context of what we're moving forward with. Alright, question number 2, SP Little Knight versus direct attacks. Okay, so this one in particular, we don't have SP on the field just yet. So during this turn, we have proceeded into the battle phase. I've attacked with, say, my Linkaribo and, say, a Rescue Ace Airlifter, both of which have dealt a direct attack, and then we now proceed to main phase 2. In main phase 2, I link summon both of these monsters into an SP Little Knight. I decide to I'm going to activate the effect of my SP Little Knight and do the banishing part of the effect, since I did use a Link monster as a part of the material. Alright, and then I'm going to target, say, one of their back row. I'm going to banish it permanently, and then my opponent's like, hey, you can't do that. You dealt a direct attack on me on this turn. You can't use SP Little Knight's effect. It states on the card, your monsters cannot attack directly this turn. And then an argument ensues. Well, I'm saying, hey, I can do it, but I don't have a proper explanation. So we decide to call a judge. And this is where you come in, the judge person. How would you resolve the scenario? Who's right? Who's wrong? Well, you can pause the video, or we can get the answer right now. Well, to keep it simple, you can attack directly and then go to main phase 2, make an SP with extra deck materials, and then use the trigger effect. But you attack directly, Tom. How is that possible? That's contradictory. It's only kind of contradictory. Yeah, it doesn't sound very good and probably could have been worded a little bit better on the card text. Maybe it could have just said for the rest of the turn. However, the reason why it still works is because it is not a condition. It is an effect. It's conjoined by the also conjunction. You know, take it how you will. So in other words, it needs to apply in order to lock you out from attacking directly. And yeah, it definitely could have been worded a little bit better, but that's how we see it. But you know, if you have any doubts, you can also ask your head judge how they want to rule that one, because you know, based on how it's worded, it does allow for a little bit of wiggle room, but I wouldn't put your hopes into it. You probably still can attack. You still can, C-A-N, can attack directly and still get the other effect as well, the banish one card on the field effect, the trigger. Before we get to question number 3, you don't want to miss out on msttmerch.com. Foil sleeves designed by me, Tom Box, and you know it's good stuff. You've seen it in person. We also have your card game essentials. We've got the Carbon Series blacks, the whites, and the pinks. They all feel nearly identical to the old PC whites. Don't miss out your chance on a bulk order. Now, if you're a store and you want to stock our Carbon Series line, just give us an email. And we've got mats, NFT sleeves, we've got box dividers for all of your TCG needs. Check us out at msttmerch.com. Really appreciate your support, and your support is what keeps us going. Thanks a lot, and let's continue with the next question. Question number 3. We have a Hita on the opposing side of the field, and then there is also an SP on my side of the field. They decide to activate the Hita on their side of the field, and I'm going to chain my SP. I'm going to be like, SP, target SP, and your Hita, so maybe they lose out their arrows. But then they decide to chain one of their cards. They're like, chain, right? Get, keep, break, and target the SP on my side of the field. And then during resolution, I'm like, okay, well, we'll do as much as possible, and my monster gets destroyed, and then your monster gets banished, and you don't get my card. They're like, no, hold on a second. Your SP is no longer on the field. Your effect doesn't even get to resolve anymore, so I still get to keep the Hita. And, you know, arguments back and forth. Who is correct on this one? Judge comes over. You're the judge, and, well, how are you going to answer this? You have, well, you can pause the video, or let's just get right into the answer, because my SP now has been destroyed. SP's card text specifically states banish both until the end phase. The wording of both is very specific. It doesn't say banish them until the end phase, it says banish both. In other words, you need to hit both targets off of the field. And since one that has been removed, you cannot resolve this anymore. So the Hita will be able to successfully resolve in taking whatever fire monster I have in my graveyard. Maybe it's an Ash Blossom, but that's another scenario here that does, you know, make sense and does occur from time to time, especially with Rescue Ace, because they're going to extinguish like half the stuff that SP tries to remove. Question number 4. We have SP on my side of the field, and I also have a monster that which previously belongs to my opponent. It was special summoned from the graveyard via rescue when I had the hydrant on the field, and so my opponent summons out, say, their own airlifter, and then I chain my SP, banishing the monster I took from rescue and their new monster. During the end phase, when I try to bring the monster back, they're like, well, thanks for bringing back my monster, because that monster was previously mine. It goes back to my side of the field. And then I'm like, hold on, no, that monster is under my permanent control. It's going back on my side of the field, because the applied effect of a rescue is what took control of it, and it's not temporary control. So based off of that, judge comes over. How would you rule this one? Who is correct on this particular scenario? So the resolution on this is actually fairly simple. We have yourself the monster coming back during the end phase, and it's gonna go back to whoever that controlled it last. So it just comes back onto the field, and because it was a permanent control, there's nothing else really applying on that monster which would expire or give back to the opponent. It just stays there. It's just a permanent control stuck. It's like you monster reborn your opponent's card, and then you decide to use it for SP, and then just stays on your side of the field. Nothing really changed right there. Now, this isn't for every single scenario. This is only for a permanent control swap scenario. But what if you have something that's applied onto the monster instead? So that's question number 5. And so we get to question number 5. We're gonna change up the scenario a little bit. Player A has the SP, and they have also the monster equipped with Snatch Steal that belonged to the opponent previously, and the opponent also has a monster as well, and so they want to be able to do something. The activate effect, SP gets activated, player A activates SP, and then targets the monster equipped with Snatch Steal and the opposing monster, whatever that monster may be. And here we get the Snatch Steal basically falls off, destroys itself because it's not equipped to anything anymore, and we get to the end phase. And the end phase, the monster comes back, player A argues that, oh, it's not equipped with Snatch Steal anymore, so I don't have to give the monster back, whereas player B is like, no, you have to give it back. Snatch Steal is no longer attached to it, you have to return the monster. And so they argue, you have to step in. What is the proper answer? It's quite simple. It's literally the opposite of the previous scenario. That is, because Snatch Steal is no longer applying its control swap, after the monster comes back onto player A side of the field, it automatically gets returned to player B because Snatch Steal is no longer there. And it kind of applies to a lot of this temporary control stuff like enemy controller, mind control during the end phase, whatever during the end phase. Things have expired and the applied effect is basically no longer there. And so you have to return the monster because these are all temporary control. Temporary control, very specific category of rulings. That's kind of the simple breakdown of all these SP rulings. These are the most common, most frequent ones. Yes, you just have to pay attention to some of the card text wording. Overall, it's not too difficult of a card. Probably some parts of the card text you have to pay attention to would be the banish both until the end phase. The word both is a keyword in this particular card effect. Another one that's a little bit more confusing, which would probably be the direct attack, and then you still get to use the trigger effect of SP Little Knight. It's mainly because the wording is definitely not the easiest to interpret, easily confused with it can easily be confused with a condition, even though it is just an applied effect, so it still needs to take place after the fact, not a condition. Those are the two biggest things, and understanding how the mechanics work. If you don't have enough space, monsters come back. If they don't have space, they get sent to the graveyard. I think that's mostly in how control shifting works when it comes to monsters that you do not own. That pretty much covers everything. And that's all I got for this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, smash that thumbs up button, and don't forget to check out mstmerch.com for all your card game essentials, from tournament level sleeves, the pinks, the whites, the blacks. We also have the over sleeves for your fancy sleeves, such as the Ulti Egos, Ulti Instincts, or the MST colored sleeves. We have box dividers, anything that is collectible essentials, we got it. So make sure you guys check out mstmerch.com. If you guys want to do some wholesale stuff, I'm gonna put it in your store. Well, you'll have to send an email directly to MST support at mstmerch.com. We'll get that all sorted out. Yeah, we do have something that we can set up for you, but you'll have to reach out. That's all I got for this video, guys. Thank you for watching, and best of luck on your polls. Bye bye.